media.
Jester's secret. The boy's name was Oliver. He was 6 years old and he was dying. The cancer had been eating away at him for nearly a year now, creeping through his small body like ivy strangling a tree. The doctors had done all they could. The medications had stolen what little energy he had left, and the pain, well, the pain never really stopped. But Oliver still smiled. He smiled at the nurses who came to check his vitals. He smiled at the doctors who spoke in hushed voices just outside his room. He smiled at the other children in the hospice ward, even as their beds became empty one by one. But most of all, Oliver smiled for Jester. Jester was an old golden retriever, an emotional support dog trained to bring comfort to the sick. He had been coming to the hospital for years, and the moment he met Oliver, something changed. The connection between them was instant, deeper than anything the nurses had ever seen. Jester would curl up at the foot of Oliver's bed for hours, his soft brown eyes watching over the boy as if he understood. And maybe he did, because Oliver always knew things about Jester, things no one had ever told him. It started small. Oliver would scratch behind Jester's ears and say things like, "He had a good dream last night. He was running through a big field with a little girl in a blue dress." The handler, a woman named Claire, had once mentioned that Jester had belonged to a little girl before coming to the hospital, but she had never said anything about a blue dress. Then Oliver started saying stranger things. He told Claire that Jester remembered the cold, the rain, and the rough hands that had thrown him from a car window when he was just a puppy. Claire had gone pale when she heard that. She'd found Jester on the side of the road, whimpering, barely old enough to survive. She had never told anyone the full story, but Oliver looked at her with those bright, knowing eyes and whispered, "Jester will never forget that you saved him." As the weeks passed, Oliver's condition worsened. The doctor said the tumors were pressing against parts of his brain, and he started speaking in ways that no one could explain. Sometimes in the middle of the night, the nurses would hear him muttering in a language they didn't recognize. One day, a nurse fluent in French stopped outside his door and realized that Oliver was speaking in perfect, fluid French, a language he had never learned. A week later, a janitor passing by his room heard him whispering in what sounded like Latin. The janitor had studied theology in his youth, and his blood ran cold when he realized Oliver was reciting prayers. The boy had never left his hometown. There was no way he could have known any of this. Then came the day the new nurse arrived. May was from China, soft-spoken and kind. She had only been working in the hospice ward for a few days when she stepped into Oliver's room. He was weak now, barely able to sit up, his skin pale as candle wax. Jester lay beside him, resting his head against Oliver's small hand. May smiled at the boy, introduced herself, and went to check his chart. Then, Oliver whispered something in perfect Mandarin. May froze. The boy's voice was soft but steady, and he spoke words that no one else in the room could understand. Words that belonged to her childhood, her family, private memories she had never shared with anyone. He spoke of her grandfather's old fishing boat, the one that had sunk when she was a little girl. He described the jade pendant her mother had hidden in the bottom drawer of a wooden cabinet before she died. He whispered the pet name her father used to call her when she was small, something no one, not even her closest friends, knew. May dropped the clipboard. She backed away, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Her hands shook as she clutched the edge of the bed, staring at Oliver in horror. "How do you know these things?" she whispered. Oliver just smiled. "Jester told me." May turned to the dog, still curled up beside the boy, his golden fur rising and falling with each slow breath. Jester's eyes were open, watching her. "Jester doesn't like your fried liver," Oliver murmured, his voice barely above a whisper now. "But he really loves your chicken gizzard gravy." May clapped a hand over her mouth. Her grandmother had made fried liver and chicken gizzard gravy every Sunday when she was a child. She had hated the liver, but Jester had never eaten at her table. Jester had never even met her before today. Tears welled in her eyes. The room was silent except for the soft beeping of Oliver's heart monitor. She turned to Jester's handler, who stood frozen, her face drained of all color. "He knows," Claire murmured. "He knows things that no one else should." And then, one day, Oliver knew it was time. His breathing was weaker now, his voice a shadow of what it had once been. Jester never left his side, resting his head beside Oliver's frail little hand. The nurses came in quietly, their eyes red-rimmed, their movements slow and careful. They had seen many children pass through these doors, but Oliver was different. There was something about him, something more. That morning, as the sun rose outside his window, Oliver lifted his hand, brushing his fingers gently over Jester's head. His skin was cold now, the life in him slipping away like sand through an hourglass. He took a slow, shuddering breath and whispered, "See you soon, buddy." Jester whined softly and licked Oliver's fingers. The monitors beeped once, then silence. Jester didn't move for hours, even after the nurses came in to confirm what they already knew. He just lay there, his body still, his eyes full of something that looked almost like understanding. That night, Jester's handler swore she heard something, just a whisper, barely audible, as she closed up the ward for the night. A child's voice, warm and familiar. "See you soon, buddy." And when she turned, Jester was staring at the empty hospital bed, his tail wagging ever so slightly, as if he had just heard something no one else could.